Hi, it's Maria with my two of my grandchildren again.
Huh, Frankie.
Christopher.
And they're going to help with the story today. They really enjoyed yesterday's story. So, do you want to tell us a little bit what happened in the last chapter, Frankie?
So a little boy was leading the dog near a fire. And then the dog then he left him there and didn't let him go back home with him. And then we're at the end. They're near the fire, and there's this thing that closes up. It's starting to close up right now, and it's surrounded with fire.
It's fire pincers.
Fire pincher, yeah. And what do you want to say about this last chapter?
It was kind of freaky because Tag and Hero are one of the two favorites in this story. Tag is Alfred's little brother, and then Hero is DJ's little hound dog. So I'm kind of nervous about what's going to happen to both of them.
Yeah, so we better get reading.
Yeah.
So the title today is A Life
and Death Decision.
A life and death decision. Oh boy, that sounds like a lot for kids to have to do. So Grammy's going to read. DJ wasn't conscious of praying. He wasn't even aware that he was praying. For a moment, he stood helpless beside his friend, hearing Tag scream beyond the fire flames. Help! Help! Alfred spun to face DJ. I can't just leave him in there, but we can't run through that fire. Alfred's words ended with a groan, oh, and such deep agony that DJ would never forget it. Suddenly, DJ pointed, look, the fire's moving so fast across that old burn, that's an area that had been burnt before in the past, that it's already passing. We can go around it. Quickly, DJ bent over and scooped Dooger up into his arms, pulling him tight against his chest. Then DJ pulled the leash from Alfred's unresisting hands. He wasn't even holding tight. Come on, DJ yelled, starting to run towards the mountain. The flames are almost past there where it came from. Alfred called after him, DJ, have you gone crazy? Follow me. The worst of the fire has already passed. It'll be hot in the old burn, but we've got boots on. Come on. He didn't look back, but he heard his friend running after him. They were running side by side when they came to the far end of the flames that had entered the old barn. The leaping, twisting yellow flames had swooshed down the mountain, driven by hot winds that were made worse by the fire itself. And if you remember, I told you sometimes those fires make their own weather, like fire tornadoes.
Fire tornadoes?
Never heard of it.
Yeah.
What is a fire tornado?
Fire tornado is when they make their own wind because of the heat. And that wind begins, instead of going straight like it is in this book, it begins to go around and around, and it picks up stuff in the middle of it, like a real tornado. And the column gets really high, and it's super white. It's actually beautiful, but inside of it, there's all these like maybe branches that are burning and stuff. And it goes up and then throws them, and it starts fires all over the place.
Oh,
wow. We had one real close to here a few years ago. So that was a good question, you guys. let's see. But the worst had passed. There was only a flat sea of smoking ash with a few snags burning where the boys came up to the edge of the old burn. Hold your breath as long as you can, DJ cried, bending low at the waist and trying to keep the red pup from struggling free. Here we go. He felt the hot ground through his thick cork soles of his boots. That'd be the bottom of them. He smelled burning cloth and glanced down to see his left pant leg had caught fire from the tongues of flames he'd passed. Without stopping, DJ clutched Dooger closer with his right hand and bent to slap his pant legs and put the fire out. The small fire went out on the second slap. Smoke curled up. DJ didn't look any longer. He brushed his left hand against his hip, hoping his palm had not been seriously burned. DJ brought his left arm up fast and wrapped it over the right, completely encircling the little pup. He doesn't want that pup to jump down in there.
Because that would be very hot and it would burn their paws.
That's right.
And it would make her die.
Yeah. Dooger was making funny noises because of being jostled about so roughly, but DJ didn't dare look at the dog. Everything depended upon not stumbling and falling into the hot ground, the smoking hot ground. Alfred was coughing, half a step behind DJ. But Alfred's boots were making running noises. The smoke and ashes whirled around them, obscuring everything. It means blocking out everything. You couldn't even see it. But the red haze of the sun. For the moment, there was a strange kind of silence. The constant roar of the fire was gone. From a very great distance, it seemed, DJ heard the twin-engine spotter plane overhead. It sounded very low. He wondered if the men he'd met at the airport were circling up there between the suffocating smoke and the sun. Could they see him and Alfred? Could they see Tag in the green belt where DJ hoped he was still headed? But in the choking, stinging smoke, DJ wasn't sure he was still heading towards Tag. Somewhere beyond the dense smoke, DJ heard a momentary fragment of a sound from a convoy of huge track-laying bulldozers. A convoy means there's a bunch of them, one after the other. Their wide blades were carving out fire breaks to slow or turn the flames. Near the crawlers, DJ heard a truck motor groaning as it crept along the rugged terrain. A fire engine, maybe. Then he heard voices, faint and far away. Only the click of shovels, brush axes, and other small hand tools was clearly heard in the smoke. DJ was coughing so hard he thought he was going to be sick to his stomach. His eyes hurt and streamed with tears. He couldn't see anything except the twisting yellow flames leaping towards the sky and giving off dark, heavy smoke. He thought, so this is what it's like to die. Yet he kept running, clutching the red hound, straining to reach the green oasis of tall timber. An oasis is a nice green spot in the middle, usually of a desert, but this time in the middle of a fire. But there were no more screams from Tag. DJ wasn't conscious of the change in the smoke. One moment it seemed so thick that the sun overhead was only a bright glowing red mass. Then the smoke was gone, and DJ sucked in the cleanest, sweetest breath of air in his whole life. His feet were not burning through his thick soles right now, his bloodshot eyes flowing with hot tears. He saw an unburned pine needles beneath his feet. He had reached the green island of tall conifers. He glanced up. We made it, Alfred, DJ called, swinging around in a full circle. So Dooger cried out.
It's Dooger.
Dooger, sorry. Alfred had staggered out of the burn and collapsed on his hands and knees, coughing violently. Alfred weakly raised his head, his glasses barely on the end of his nose. I mean, his glasses are ready to just fall off. His eyes roamed the small island of green evergreens in unbelief. DJ did the same. Behind them, where they had come, the fire had already passed the old burn. The monstrous yellow flames were licking hungrily towards Snowy Ridge. Beside DJ, a flaming bundle of sticks fell from a snag that had burned in the last fire. On the other side of their island, where timber had not been harvested or burned in 20 years, flames were causing full-grown evergreen trees to explode, scattering firebrands, or, pieces of them that were on fire. Ahead, in a few minutes, that column of smoke would reach the trees where the boys were. But on their side, the flames had swooshed through the old bird that had been too small to catch any major trees afire. Only small, fiery tongues licked tentatively at the green island, seeking a way in. DJ's eyes stopped their quick inventory. He lowered the red hound to the ground and pointed. Over there, the sugar pines. I see them, Alfred said weakly, trying to stop coughing. But I don't see my brother anymore. Dooger seemed to be having sneezy fits. Poor little dog was chewing, yeah. The spasms came so fast his entire head was slammed against the ground several times. 5, 6, 7 times DJ saw the wrinkled muzzle strike the ground. A trickle of bright blood started from the dog's dark nose. Then the dog's long floppy ears suddenly drooped down beside the sad brown eyes. Dooger struck his bloody nose to the pine needles and let out a bawl. Alfred, look at Dooger! The red hound filled the air with a string of chopping bays. He surged ahead, trailing with the deep, loud yelps a hound makes when he's following a hot scent, so he's close. DJ ran quickly after him and scooped up the trailing leash. Go, Dooger, go! Find Tag! Alfred came panting up beside DJ. Dooger's going the way we heard Tag a few minutes ago. Think Tag's okay? Sure he is, DJ said as confidently as he could. So's Hero. I heard them both a few minutes ago. We've got to find them and get them out of here. A sudden roar drowned out the boy's voice, and he and Alfred turned around. His friend's voice was filled with awe. Oh no! Look! Crown fire! DJ cried. Do you remember what a crown fire is? That's a fire at the very top of the trees that can go so fast, faster than a man can run. Sometimes even faster than a horse can run. Much faster than if it's on the ground. He had never seen one up close, but the way the flames were leaping from treetop to treetop left no doubt what he was seeing. It'll be in our trees in a minute. The pincher column of living flame, which had been advancing on the far side of the green island, suddenly seemed to leap dozens of feet at a time. At the very top of the majestic evergreens, high above all else, the crown fire was now jumping from one exploding tree to another, right towards DJ and Alfred. Those trees would be exploded because it was so hot. The moisture, the water in those trees causes them to blow up. DJ didn't think about it anymore. The red hound was bawling hard and furiously. his curved tail swinging in a happy windshield wiper movement, beating back against the stray wisps of smoke. DJ let the dog's leash go slack. Suddenly, Dooger bounded away, straining at the lead, baying so fast he didn't seem to breathe between yelps. "Listen!" Alfred grabbed DJ's arm. "Listen!" "Hero!" DJ breathed. "That's my dog! Hear him? Over there!" They ran hard, but Dooger ran harder. He was barely putting his nose to the ground at all. He seemed to be catching the scent in the air. Though DJ didn't know how the hound could smell anything through all this smoke and soot and ashes. "There!" DJ cried. "There he is! I see Hero!" Alfred yelled. But where's Tag?" The hair-pulling bear dog heard the boys' voices. The scruffy, bob-tailed mutt joyfully raced towards them. His extremely loud bark was even sharper than Dooger's, but a huge flaming limb fell heavily in front of Hero, so it dropped down that big burning branch. The little dog swerved sharply away. He turned back towards the trees, now crowned with explosive fire. DJ and Alfred left the edge of the bird where the evergreen limbs came right down to the ground. Now they were in the deep shadows of close-growing conifers. No limbs grew closer than 60 feet above the ground where the boys ran. Dooger was almost pulling DJ's arm from its socket as the hound bayed and surged forward against the chain. They circled the fiercely burning limb which had blocked and turned Hero back. Both boys saw the hair puller at once. Then they were at his side. The stubby-tailed dog leaped up against DJ's leg in greeting and then ran against the far side of an immense, really big, Douglas fir. Its dark green branchlets drooped towards the ground, creating a deep shade that for a moment neither boy, they saw nothing. Dooger was whining frantically and fighting his chain. DJ released it, let go, and the little dog bounded away to sniff at something. DJ barely noticed because he was so busy hugging his hair puller. "Oh, Hero, good dog. I thought you were..." "Tag!" DJ leaped to his feet. "Hero, where's Tag?" Both DJ and Alfred turned towards Dooger. The hound was jumping around, licking his long tongue over something half hidden behind the tree trunk.
"Tag!
Tag!" Both boys said it together. They pulled the wildly wiggling Dooger aside and bent over at Alfred's little brother. He did not move. Even when Dooger pulled loose from the older boys and returned to licking Tag's face, the little boy was crouched down against a tree's great protective trunk. Tag's head rested on his knees. Alfred reached him first and tipped his head back. Tag's cheeks were grimy with soot and ashes and tears. Slowly he opened his eyes. "Am I dead?" The relief was so great that DJ and Alfred broke out in laughter. "No!" Alfred exclaimed, scooping up his little brother in his arms. "You're just fine." Suddenly, another tremendous explosion seemed right overhead. All three boys looked up. The tree under which they stood was crowned with living, shooting flames. "Come on!" DJ yelled, grabbing Hero by the collar and pulling hard on Dooger's chain. "Let's get out of here." He let go of the hair puller's collar, knowing Hero would follow him. Then DJ bent and unsnapped Dooger's chain so it wouldn't hang up on the brush or downed logs. The red hound would also stay with him, DJ knew. "Can you walk?" Alfred anxiously asked his brother. I can run, Tag said. I was just scared and hid from the fire. Don't. Then, let's run, DJ cried, leading the way. Alfred, grab one of Tag's arms, and I'll grab the other. If he falls, we'll jerk him up fast. The three boys sprinted straight for the burn where the two older boys had crossed a few minutes before. Both dogs bounded along ahead. They were running ahead. Overhead, the crown fire was making terrible sounds. Don't play with her. She's knocking my stand. Flaming torches fell around the boys and dogs, but in moments, running at right angles to the fire, the falling fragments were heard falling farther behind them and to the right. The boys quickly gained the edge on the green belt. DJ looked at Alfred, shouted to be heard against the forest fire. We've got to do it one more time. Back to the burn. But we'll have to carry the dogs because the ground is too hot for their feet. I could even feel the heat through the soles of my boots a while ago. You take Dooger under your left arm and hold Tag's hand with your right. I'll take his left hand and hold Hero under my right arm, okay? Alfred nodded and bent down to grab up his dog and clutch his brother's hand. In a moment, the boys plunged into the burn again. It was still smoking, but the main fire had passed. It was less threatening than it had been when they passed through a few minutes before. We're going to make it, Alfred cried, ducking his head to his left shoulder in an effort to shove his thick glasses higher on his nose. Tag's shrill, happy voice echoed his brother's words. We're going to make it. Sure are, DJ answered, so happily he wanted to shout, Hey, look overhead. There's the Sky Command plane. Bet our friends are in it. Yeah, and there's 2 air tankers headed for the island. The boys kept running, tired and staggering and still moving across the burn. If they can stop that fire before here, DJ yelled, the town could be saved. Last chance, though, Alfred answered. Hey, only another few steps and we're safe. Hey, you guys. The voice behind them caused DJ and Alfred to turn their heads. For a moment, the boys stopped, staring at what they saw. It's that guy, Bones, Alfred exclaimed. He's fallen down on that green island where we were. He's the firebug, DJ cried. What? He can't get up. Look, his legs hurt. I can't let him die like that, DJ answered. Here, Alfred, you take Hero under your other arm. Tag can make it okay from here. What are you going to do? DJ didn't answer. He was already sprinting through the burn for the 3rd time, kicking up hot ashes and soot. In a moment, he was back at the island, but the green trees were exploding like giant firecrackers. The island had become a lake of fire. And that is the end of chapter 11. Oh, man. So it looks like Alfred and Tag and Hero and Dooger are all going to be safe. But I don't know about DJ, who's risking his life to try to save Bones, even though he says Bones is the fire bug. Well, tomorrow we'll read Chapter 12, Back from the Inferno. Inferno is a wild, burning area. So, that's all for tonight. I want to remind you, I love you. I really do. But even more important than that, God loves you, and He always will. So I hope you enjoyed this story, even though it was a little scary and hair-raising tonight, or in the day if you're watching in the day. And I'll be reading to you again tomorrow. So, good night, and God bless you from Maria,
Christopher,
Frankie.
All right, good night.